Star Wars The Clone Wars was an animated movie released in the theaters in 2008 in order to build up steam for the new animated series by the same name that was coming to Cartoon Network. The movie basically acts as a three-part pilot for the TV series and suffers from a lot of the early problems that the TV series had as the writers and so on tried to work out how they wanted the series to be. On the bright side, this movie is basically a standalone mission, and therefore you don't need to know anything about the series in order to understand the basic gist of the plot here. So at least the movie can be watched on its own merits and judged by them. Plot-wise, this movie focuses on one of the main missions that occurred during the Clone Wars, and was pivotal in the early war efforts since it helped get Jabba the Hutt on the side of the Republic, and prevented the Separatists from cutting the Grand Army of the Republic off from their supply lines by paving the way for a treaty that allowed the clone armies to travel through the hyperspace lanes under the control of the Hutts. And yes, I realize that overly long sentence I just wrote off skipped over the entire kidnap/rescue plot involving Jabba's son and the political intrigue that apparently goes on between the various members of the Hutt clan, but I tend to find those aspects a mixed bag between the most interesting and most boring aspects of the film. On one hand, it helps flesh out the world and show the importance of political and military alliances during military conflicts. On the other hand, some of the scenes involving Jabba make him seem like an idiotic rube, and make me question how he could ever become one of the most powerful crime lords in the galaxy. The movie features a script filled with questionable one-liners and comedic humor that is sometimes misplaced, with the worst aspects of the comedy being the droids themselves, who tend to be rather cowardly and pathetic as soon as the tide of a battle turns against them. I just never understood the point of making the droids and their reactions a part of the jokes in the film, since it takes away any sense of them being a credible threat. Though I guess after the events of the Phantom Menace where the Jedi cut them down like wet toilet paper, that is to be expected.
Count Dooku demands a report on your mission. Should I tell him they got away, or what? Why?
Unlike some of the previous films, the movie moves at a breakneck pace, trying to move from one action scene to the next while still fitting in a few moments for character development.
You're reckless, little one. You never would have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan. But you might make it as mine.
It also brings a few new characters to the table like Ahsoka Tano, who is probably the most interesting character in the movie. Not because she is a particularly well-rounded or fully realized character in the movie, but because it raises questions on her ultimate fate, concerning the events of Revenge of the Sith. She also represents a responsibility to Anakin, a character that seems to be defined by his recklessness in the face of danger.
No, R2. I want the cannon operational first. Leave the rear deflector shields for later.
No rear shields, Master? That's awful risky.
A strong attack eliminates the need for defense, Snips.
I'll put this out there first. The character designs in this movie and in the series is sort of off-putting at first, but the style did grow on me after a while, although certain characters like Palpatine still feel over the top in my opinion. Outside of the odd design aesthetics for the characters, the movie also suffers from rather stiff animations every now and again, the biggest offender in this area being the lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan and Ventress.
Well, now I'm impressed.
Outside of those problems area though, the movie is pretty well done in terms of visuals. The movie does alright for itself in this category, with the musical scores and voice acting being acceptable. Albeit the music is at its best when it reuses well-established tracks from the original trilogy, even if they may not be the best fit for the scene in question. In the end, Star Wars The Clone Wars is fast and loud, but it does its job as a pilot movie for the TV series, and it's definitely worth checking out if you can find a copy for cheap. But at the same time, this isn't a cinematic masterpiece, so I wouldn't recommend spending more than $15 on this movie.